Mr. Jeff Fenton, Mr. Martin Tower, Dan William from Greenfingers, and Professor Chen, and Chris Johnson from EHP. Okay, so I think what I'll do first is I'm going to say thank you very much to the conference organisers. I think you guys have done very good. It's really great to be in, I know everyone's probably getting a bit tired, it's been a long day, but it's great to be part of a symposium that has so much engagement and energy and lots of questions by the participants. I've been charged with trying to get some outcomes from the audience. Okay, so you raise your spirits for one last run through in this symposium. So we are going to try, as a group, to identify the key issues and priorities facing this industry. We are going to try and do it from the industry's perspective, as opposed to a researcher's perspective or a regulator's perspective. That's also one of the key things that's been really successful about today's event, is that we have representatives from all the different parts of the industry. We have users, we have developers, we have the industry, and we have the researchers. Okay, so we're going to start this now with by the way, because we have limited time, I'm going to encourage for comments, but I might also be cutting you short if I think you're talking too long. So don't be too offended. And I will also stay out of this conversation. I'll just try and facilitate it as best I can. Now, for our esteemed panel members, you're going to get 1 minute, and our timekeeper is going to be very strict with you. Your question is organic wastes or wasted gold. And I reckon we'll start up this end and we'll go that way. Here you go. Did you like the?
Okay. In the past few months, actually, when we think about organic conflict, we think about a lot of things about organic. If on one hand, when the population increase, we generate a lot of organic. I think that based on the current data, it's about 20 million times the organic they produce. At the same time, and only 44% go recycle, 47% go to the landfill, 9% go to the electricity generation. So to me, the most of the 47, which is not recycled yet, I think that is wasted gold. Okay, we need to change the perception. It is not a waste; it's the resource. How we recover and recycle this resource. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. No great insights from me. I guess it was interesting to hear that this was the first of this symposium, and because I have to say it's wasted gold. It's kind of like a gold bar with a little bit of kind of grime still on it, a bit of dirt, a bit of dust. It just needs a bit of a polish up, a bit of spit and polish, and get that demand up. And yeah, if you want people to use it, you want farmers to use it, show them it works, and they'll come on board eventually. So.
Definitely wasted gold. We've seen obviously the direct result by using many different waste streams. We've built a whole business on recycled products, and in particular recycled organics, and the demand's there for it. There's just a few bridges that we've got to cross. One is definitely education. In Queensland, another one is further education and a little bit more government support. We've heard a lot of New South Wales commentary today, and I think there's sort of a time for Queensland to advance in this area, and this symposium in the first year is a step in the right direction. Definitely wasted gold. It's recovering some of the figures that were put forward today about nutrient loss is just quite astounding as how much we have available to us, and the technology's there. and the study and the research has been done. We've just got to sort of like a dot to dot, and we've got to join the dots a little bit. But I think that's going to happen. So definitely wasted gold and a big future to come.
I guess I also concur with wasted gold. So what are the options again? Wasted gold. Organic?
Your question.
Maybe I should read it now.
Organic waste or wasted gold is your question.
Wasted gold. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that there's a lot of potential in a lot of the waste that we don't use. I think someone mentioned earlier we're just going to have to start using the waste for phosphorus and other sorts of key elements because they're just going to run out, and we're going to have to start tapping into these reasonably rich reservoirs of things that we need. So I think, yeah, definitely wasted gold, but I also think there's a big potential to manage a lot of these wastes to get them better before they are classified as waste materials as well. So I think there's big potential in that area to cut down on wastes.
I just put some numbers on this. I work on an egg farm. A sister egg farm down the road sells their raw manure for $18 a tonne at about 65% moisture. We compost to about 30% moisture. The finished product I produce has about $85 worth of NPK. It's got about another $100 of trace elements in synthetic value equivalents. That's without counting the organic matter, the organic carbon, the biology, the EC, and the rest of it that you get with a composted material. So call it $200 per tonne of value, and it sells for 85. I think we're wasting gold.
Definitely wasted gold. I'm not sure that all of the products we're talking about are actually all organic though. I think that's part of the problem, is being able to separate. Generally speaking, agriculture is a net exporter of nutrients for most of our agricultural land, and we need to figure out how to get it back. The stuff we waste once it's gone through us, or sometimes not even through us. And I also believe that in doing this great work of getting these sources of nutrients back in agriculture, we have a massive risk of turning a point source regulated pollutant into a diffuse source of contaminant. So that agricultural land we want to improve, put back into its fertile state. We don't want to contaminate it. So we also have a big challenge, I think, because some of the business we're in is exactly that, it's business. And someone told me a long time ago that money can bring out the best and the worst in people, and we have that potential in this arena as well. An example would be that we can free up regulation and make it easier for local government to not go to the cost of treating their effluent and get it onto agricultural land quickly and easily. They might save them money, but not necessarily in long term fix the problem. So definitely some more science. There's lots of interesting science going on and some great projects, and what we've heard about today is fantastic. But I think part of the solution is that we need to continue to invest in science and more monitoring. A classic problem we've had with a number of industries like coal seam gas and others, that we don't have enough public disclosure of real-time monitoring to save us from ourselves.
Great, thanks very much. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I have made a list of what I think have been the key themes that have come out of today, and I'm going to talk you through them. The first one was landfill. They're in no particular order. You are going to choose two of them as your favourite, and you're going to vote on them. The top four of them we'll use as the basis of discussion for the final part of the panel discussion. Okay, so landfill was obviously an issue. I think greenhouse gas emissions came up and carbon sequestration as an issue. Community engagement, barriers for the industry's growth. Yeah, that's your vote. We're going to do a show of hands in a second. Economics, technology, markets/demand, R&D, quality control, and by that I mean of the feed and the final product. Agronomic benefits. It seems like in this space there's perhaps we know that there's agro benefits, but I don't know if it's been empirically documented, and also the mineralisation probably is something that people need to consider. Environmental impacts and adoption.
When you say environmental impacts, do you mean bad or also remediation?
I am talking about pollution mainly, so like what we talked about with the reef and some of what I talked about, and there was some atrazine sort of talk as well at some point. Have I missed anything, any big topic that someone would like added to this board? Yep.
They're using degrading the marginal landscapes.
Yep. Rehabilitation. Yep. Anything else?
Well, there's community education part of engagement.
Yes. Okay, so what I need you to do now is choose which one's your favourite, and then you're all going to just scream it at me, and then the loudest one that I hear will be the one we talk about. Oh no, sorry, that won't work. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to choose your top 2 favourites, okay? And then I'm going to go through each of them, and you're going to vote. You just get 2 votes. Just put your hand up. I'm going to just estimate what I think the number of people are voted for each topic. Does everyone understand? Okay.
Yes.
No cheating.
No, I will just do my best. Someone else Miriam can check, okay?
Okay, sure.
Landfill. Who votes for landfill? We get 1. Greenhouse. 0. Community engagement. 6, 7, 8. Going 8, 9, 10. Do I have 11? 11. Barriers to growth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
9.
9.
Yeah.
Economics.
6.
Technology.
1.
Are people voting?
1.
These numbers don't add up.
3.
Hey mate, no, yeah.
Jenny, is your hand? Jenny? Okay, 4.
Okay. Markets/demand. It's what? 5?
Yeah.
R&D. Okay.
That's a loaded question.
Does that encompass alternative systems?
Sure. 12.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to vote. We're going to discuss these in the order that they get ranked. Okay. Quality control. Oh, we have a winner. I'm just going to say winner. Number 1. Agronomic benefits. No. 3, 4, 5. 5. Environmental impacts. That looks like it's number 2. What, 12, 13, 15? You only get, you can't double vote for it. Adoption.
Some people didn't vote at all.
Yeah, that looks like that's true. And the last one's rehabilitation, site rehabilitation.
So anyone didn't vote for
So what about 8?
10.
10. Okay. We will discuss quality control first. We will discuss environmental impact second. Community engagement third. And then if we get time, we will move to rehabilitation.
And we're not going to do any R&D.
Oh, sorry, R&D. You're right. R&D is third. Okay. Let's start the ball rolling. Who wants to start the discussion on quality control? You can either ask questions of the panel, or you can make a brief comment. Roughly 10 minutes per topic. Yep.
Keen to have some discussion about comparison of synthetic versus organic. We'll call them soil management tools, I guess, at this stage. And we're always very quick to look at compost and recycled products as having contaminants, but then we ignore some of the latent contaminants that are in all of the other products that we consume, put in our mouth, feed to our children every other day of the week. And just keen to hear whether people think the airtime's balanced between those two, both today and in general.
I've got the talking sticks, so I'll go first. The first thing I'd say to you is that I don't think you're comparing apples with apples. Fertilisers are fertiliser and the compost system is far more important and it's far more broad reaching with far more benefits available from. You're also, the numbers, I guess I've created a bit of an issue with this today because I've talked about the value of nutrient in compost. That's directly related to the equivalent value of the same quantity of synthetic fertiliser. The truth of the matter is that the organic fertiliser or the nutrient within a compost is probably, if anything, a little bit more valuable because some of it's been mineralised further. And the losses, particularly of nitrogen, once you get to a compost that's been applied, is far more stable than it would be in urea, for instance, where we know we're going to lose 50% of it. So I don't think we should. One of the problems with many of these things that are brought up, including the market, is that people do think of compost as another fertiliser, and it just isn't. It's a different thing, and you need to sell it on those other issues.
Anyone else anyone want to answer this question or make a comment on this question, or do you have another question? Do you want to have a
As a follow-on to that, we have a standard, Australian standard for making compost, but we don't have a standard for compost. So when composts are made, they are a very subjective, a very variable outcome, which makes it a very difficult decision for the end user. So I would put to the panel about establishing an Australian standard for compost or the outcome.
So this relates to
That's your question, Martin.
So we've sort of gone sideways a little bit. I think we started with basically an unequal playing field is what I hear.
Unequal airtime.
Yeah, so it's basically we need to be assessing things on the same sort of scale as what I was hearing. I'll come back to that one, because I think that was relating to the end user, and I think you were relating to contaminants, right?
Yeah, contaminants have got a lot of.
Did you want to ask a question on that topic?
Yeah, I was a bit confused because I think the standard's all about compost soil conditions and monsters. I'm on the standards committee, and also that standard is held up in a court of law. So if there's anything, any problem with anything, that's what the benchmark is that the prosecution will use and the judge will use to evaluate whether the product is fit, is meeting the standard or whatever as well. So I think there is protection there for the product side of things.
Why don't we, so we're going to try and write a paper out of this, or Miriam's going to write a draft paper. Why don't we say one of the issues is inconsistency in how things are assessed or risk is assessed based on perception. I think the issue that you're raising as well, which I've heard a lot today, is about how we guarantee the product. How we say, okay, this is what we've got, this is what we know we can deliver. Would that be a fair statement? Does anyone want to, that's come up a lot today. You're in the industry, do you want to comment on that?
I think the standards are really good, but in our industry we find that they're a consistency standard, but there's a lot of minimum requirements to meet. So sometimes you don't actually get what the quality is of the product, and so different quality of compost can be manufactured for sale. Like, I mean, Martin's is top quality. Greenfingers is top quality, Newgrows is top quality, but some of the other companies that we're competing against, don't have quality control, quality assurance and then quality control in check. They're not actually we're not playing in the same field where they're actually comparing to a standard, but they often will market their product as being an Australian standard, but they're actually not going straight through to fulfilling to be a certified product through Australian standards 4454. So there's a lot of inconsistency maybe with what the consumer thinks of those standards, and more education that's needed about the standards and the actual quality of the product compared to the consistency of the product.
So I think Jeff wanted to make a comment, then we'll go there.
me it seems like there's a few different parts of the jigsaw puzzle with the quality control. One is that one of the difficulties seems like there's so many different waste streams that we're trying to take out of landfill and do something with them, and whether it ends up in a pot plant or back onto a farm, there's waste coming from everywhere. One of the other pressures seems to be that in order to enable this industry that struggles with cost and volume and transport costs and what have you, let's get the burden of regulation out of the road. And that seems pretty risky to me when there's lots of waste streams and lots of risky possibilities in whether it's contaminated or other parts of this product chain. So I think the quality control, we need to make sure the standards are right, make sure the testing's right on the way in and out, but also look for where is the long-term monitoring for where this stuff ends up. And making sure that monitoring is being done, and that the view in the regulation is not once it's left the truck and it's back onto the farm or it's in that consumer's pot plant, then our responsibility is over. That ongoing monitoring and making sure that is publicly accessible is going to be our safety net. And that's the bit that worries me, that's not probably in place well enough to make sure the quality control is doing what we set out to think it's going to do.
Sorry, we're going to go here next.
Yeah, I was just going to differentiate between AS4454, which is a manufacturing standard, and what you might be talking about, which is much more about a product specification. And AS4454 controls physical and chemical and biological contamination. But what product specs do is describe a product for each and every application that's fit for purpose. And it's got performance characteristics in it. It's got levels of NP, K and C and everything else that you want in a product that's going to produce some agronomic result. AS4454 doesn't address that question. It's never intended to. It is a quality control standard, and I would suggest it's the barest minimum of a quality control standard. We need performance characteristics in every industry, and every application needs their own really product specification to do that.
I might pose a question. It seems like cowboys potentially could pose a real big risk to this industry. Cowboy operators. I've seen it in the buy-side world where you have some great examples of people here today who are passionate and are doing the right thing. But it doesn't take too long to find the people that will apply anything to land. So I wonder if you had some comments about those. And, you want to ask a question, I think, or
the lady over there just asked the question that I was going to ask about distinguishing between quality of manufacture, or those quality parameters, and product performance. And it's the simple supply. So I think of nutrients to demand, and I think that's probably one of the things that may be holding it back in certain.
Can you speak up, please?
Cropping applications, is this issue of actually nutrient supply and product performance. So I just wanted to express comments.
Now, unless you've got anything burning to add on that one, sorry, that's time's up. So I need to look on each topic. You'll have to be super eager if you want to make a comment. Our next one is environmental impacts. I'm staying out of it. Yep.
Comment, which I can just turn my question from quality control to environmental impacts. In New South Wales, our requirement for using waste through the resource and recovery is essentially becomes the responsibility of the end user and the responsibility of their site. So really in quality control and also in the environment, they have to demonstrate that they're not going to cause environmental impacts, or the materials that they're going to use are not going to be hazardous. But what they need to have, and what our industry needs to have, is we need to instill confidence in the end user that they can use the materials. And at the moment, there's a big gap. So I was just going to ask a question. That's what I think.
It sounds like
there's a gap.
you're saying that
So
evidence
because the
of-
responsibility is the end user, the farmer, the technical specifications that we're looking for, the Australian standards that we're looking for, that there's a gap there. It's a knowledge gap, confidence gap.
Martin, did you want to have a go at that? Sorry, it sounds like you're talking about the product itself.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
at the end of the day, it's buyer beware as it is with everything. So to support the buyer's decision making, there's an expectation that they will have some knowledge of what it is they're buying, and they're not just going out into the marketplace. Many of them would use an agronomist to advise them on that, or a soil scientist. This is in the agricultural community. And the producer of the material ought to be representing, as a legal requirement, to represent their product specification accurately in the marketplace. And that can be supported by certain quality assurance programs that various people and producers would use. I use a HACCP system, Australian Certified Organic. Others would use various other industry codes of practice for production. Then there are codes of practice as well with many of the grower groups that specify the characteristics of the material they can use, particularly in the horticulture. So there are a number of hurdles there. Very often, however, in my experience, I've found that the critical hurdle that is used in decision making is price. And I've lost several clients who've gone to other providers who provided they believe was a compost at a lesser price. And I think just about invariably those people come back to me after a couple of seasons. So I do think to some extent it's self-regulating. I do think that really the end user needs to make a conscious decision about what they're doing and get themselves informed about what they're doing. And I do think that there is a responsibility on the processors to ensure that they're representing their product in the marketplace correctly.
It sounds a little concerning to hear that it's self-regulated. You're basically saying you think it's self-regulated, and sorry, is it Jeff? Jeff basically was saying much the same thing, and that the price will be the driver of what sort of treatment it gets. Any more questions on or statements on impact?
Well, I'd just like to say that you tend to be judged on the worst case scenario when it comes to products. And you really can't afford to have situations where sort of a real disaster occurs. You just have to look at what's happened with the defence departments and their PFAS disasters.
I think that's absolutely right, but the problem is that judgment from somebody doing the wrong thing tends to reflect back on the whole industry.
That's right.
Rather than just that supplier. And because this is an unfamiliar product, generally in the marketplace, people are nervous about it at first. But then, if you stick to quality, I've got clients who've been coming back 8-9 years and continue to go well with it.
If you're looking at something that grows.
So, next question.
I guess I'll throw it open to everyone. Raise the question: do you think the industry, in some ways, is its own worst enemy, in the sense that if you go by fertiliser, you know what the NPK ratio of it is. It's divine. And you saw on the slides today, phosphorus fertiliser will have higher cadmium than on a unit basis than recycled organics, but obviously you're applying much higher rates of organics. But the cadmium question coming into consideration with fertiliser. So there's a general confidence and assumption that fertiliser producers are meeting that standard. But I guess the recycled or organics industry, in some ways, could be seen to be a bit like your the organic farming industry was 20 years ago. It's all fluffy and
Could I flip this on the head then?
and undefined.
Is there techniques or strategies the industry can do to build confidence?
Yeah, and I guess where we're getting to is it seen as, my perception is it's seen as an amorphous approach to soil amendment as opposed to being treated as a true fertiliser prescription, and then you have that distinction between, and I think it happens in a lot of cases at the moment, use of recycled organics is effectively land disposal and not true beneficial use. And I think, I guess, questions in the panel is, do you think the industry has itself to blame a bit for those sorts of perceptions?
So the question is the perception that the recycling of organic material disposal impacting on the industry as a whole?
That's right. It doesn't try the...
To be honest, that wasn't the impression I got from the people selling the product today. I actually got the strong impression that they had a really strong, well-developed product.
There's 6 million tonnes of it, so it moves through the system every year.
Yeah,
I mean, the last 20 years, growing up steadily, that's not a market failure as far as I can see. I mean, you're going to get examples of, I could pull out bad examples of different things as well, and that does happen, and that's why there's regulation and there's exemptions and there's standards and everything else to try and protect that. You can't protect everyone though from that. That doesn't mean it's right, but
you're absolutely right. And the other side of that is that there's 6 million tonnes being recycled every year of regulated waste. There's unregulated waste, which you might also call manure, that's going out there, and nobody's checking Billy's for. So it's quite galling to our industry that we have to test for contaminants in the product that goes out, pathogens and heavy metals and what. If you're land applying raw manure, and certainly in Queensland, if you're directly applying that raw manure, there's no regulation whatsoever. You don't have to test it. You can put buckets of cadmium if you want, and nobody would know.
Just wondering about bringing together this lady's comment and your comment. And I get it too, the farmer ultimately has the responsibility to, I think you said, to educate themselves on the product. I'm wondering if there's a parallel with spraying, that you need to be a licensed sprayer operator, you need to be certified that you know what you're doing. Should a landowner have a licence for your product?
A licence to be a landowner?
a licence that indicates that you are informed on the potential harm that may happen, or that you understand what's going on.
But then where's the licence for superphosphate?
So what is becoming very clear is that there's an inconsistency in the approach and the regulatory requirements for different products. Yeah. We are going to now wrap that one up, and our last topic is R&D. Who wants to start R&D off? He's gone. Question on R&D, yeah? Just comment.
What we've been talking about is we're talking about materials which are, the compost is a treated material. A lot of the other waste that we have, we're asking the question, can we use untreated wastes? What I found from the industry of being in fly ash, for example, is that unless you can create a situation where you can move your product from its source to its potential end use, that there's research and development required in technologies to be able to utilise the materials so that they can compete against natural virgin materials.
Yeah, anyone? Jen? I feel like this is your area.
Because when we talk, one thing I think we not only the question that a lot of things we talk about is the standard product, all this kind of different impact. We did a lot of this the biochar before, a couple of years ago. And I think 10 years ago, everybody interested in biochar. Biochar have the sequester a lot of carbon, have a lot of specific purpose, and have a lot of commercial potential. But now we find when we talk about biochar, every people, oh, they have, so do not believe biochar anymore because the biochar have different impact. I think that's the same story for all this organic compost. To me, the standardization, I think that we need to have a lot of things to do. And for example, at the beginning, we need to solve out what is the basic property of all this organic material. So characterization is very important. Then the other thing we need to look at it is measure the potential pollutants. For example, is heavy metals and the pathogen, then also is pharmaceutical and antibiotic, all that kind of thing, microplastic. Then we need to think about what actually the left actually in this organic, recycled organic. The other thing when we talk about this product, we cannot compare with this organic, recycled organic with the chemical fertilizer. It's a different thing. For chemical fertilizer, NPK is very clear, how much is how many units in this product. But for the recycled organic, we need to understand what we want. Okay, if we want a nutrient, we go in organic, the chemical fertilizer. But for organic, I think we need to look at broad aspect, not only in this nutrient. Nutrient is a tiny amount, 1 to 3%. So maybe we look at this carbon thing.
It does seem to be a comment that's been said a few times that it's not a fair comparison of compost with.
Yes, but I think as R&D improves, then the point of comparisons becomes stronger because our techniques and methods for comparing and standardising materials get stronger. So we know exactly how many bugs are in a certain type of compost now with improved analytical techniques. We know exactly how much elements are in there. So I think as R&D improves, I think we'll be better placed to do apple for apple comparison with these sorts of things.
Yep.
R&D priorities, what opinion on wouldn't the market drive the R&D priorities? Because whilst supply is keeping pace with demand, the R&D priorities would be how do we make more use of this? How do we improve the benefit from this product? Once supply is outstripped by demand, then the R&D should focus on how do we use it more efficiently. Because when demand outstrips supply, it will become scarce and the price will go up and people will want to use it more efficiently. So if we can find that point in time when that will happen, we can focus the research priorities to suit.
I guess in the first phase, if you were right, we wouldn't be in this mess. The problem is that because this has been largely a cottage industry, for those people who are truly recycling, then they haven't had the money to do the research. And I think we've heard today from speakers and the audience where we need the research. What do we need to know? We want to know what is the cost efficacy of this material. And that's a really difficult question because it depends on soil type, it depends on climate, it depends on crop. Too many things. But a generalised understanding where we can then do a comparison between composts and synthetics would be useful. If we can calculate in the value of the organic matter and the biology and all of the other bits and pieces that compost gives you over and above what you get from synthetic fertilizer. The other thing we need to know is what do we have to do to get rid of risk? How do we get rid of the pathogens? How do we get rid of prions? How do we get rid of antibiotics and all the rest of the stuff that may or may not be there?
We have a question.
I think just a few points. The biochar program was really misguided because it focused only on a very narrow aspect of the organics recycling part. It should have been a lot broader. The second point is we can talk a lot about R&D, but the key question is where is the funding coming from? And when you look at where a lot of this work has been done and is still being done, it's New South Wales, it's funded by the state government. That money will run out. If we're looking at the future, we have to look at a mechanism and the recycling organics industry, how to be able to put money forward and then go to the government and say, this is our contribution, can you match it? At the moment, it's really opportunistic to be able to look at compost or any other organic soil amendments if there is a federal program or an industry program where hopefully this aspect could be fitted into it. So I think the funding of that is a key question of how to move forward.
Yes, Mark.
Mark, sorry.
Yeah, I'd just like to make one comment that goes back to Martin's comments on the value of the organic matter and the biology and everything. And I think we typically in soil science and agriculture in general, we know how much NPK costs, but nobody can put a value on, nobody can really define what biological health is of the soil and mind put a value on it. Same goes for the organic matter. We all know that increasing organic matter is good, but how much good? How much good? And I think if we're working in a world where economics rules, I think that's where we need to go more broadly. And then the compost world itself fits in quite nicely to that. But it's a bigger problem than just compost.
So is there any reason why manufacturers don't follow the food industry where they actually label products or state the products of NPK so that the consumer can actually make some comparisons? I mean, at the moment that's driven by, I go to the supermarket and I'm in my house and I'll have a look at the analysis on the back of almost everything these days. If there's no analysis on it, and this is pretty ripe, I'm pretty new into this industry, but I'm a gardener, I'll go to the, to Bunnings or to a garden centre, and there will be dozens of products there. Which one do I choose? And often there's no analysis on it. So there's no analysis. Yeah.
Seems like a good suggestion. Just to make a comment, Martin and I were interviewed by the ABC about a month and a half back on mixing our minerals with compost. And it was I won't go into the details of it, but we gave this interview. And the following Monday morning, I got a call from the interviewer from the ABC. And she said, do you know, there was 100,000 hits on our ABC website on the back of your news. And she said that was the biggest for the whole weekend. More people were interested in your communication than in anything else. And I said, but why? And she said, well, it's a good news story. People want to listen to good news stories. And I think that's something that should be actually impressed upon the people here, that people like the idea of organics.
And I'm going to take that as a personal lesson. We have two last questions. This fellow here, and then you'll be the last question of the day.
While we're still talking about price on NPK, and I think it's a really good point that one of the commonalities here today is farmers aren't maybe using some of these products because farmers put a value on NPK. How can we move that down the supply chain? And you're dead right. We don't look at a tomato and see NPK. Consumers see the perfect tomato or avocado. I think while we're talking R&D, there's been a lot of advances in spectral imaging, and potentially those devices might be in mobile phones at some point, and that's when consumers will walk around and make purchase decisions based on nutrient content.
Well, you've got an ideal position at the moment to establish industry standards in how you communicate that analysis.
One of the AOR's goals in the strategic plan is to do exactly that, but we ain't funded. So we're hunting.
So I feel like, is it like the best comment in the world?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then I promise you get the last question.
I do a lot of work with farmers. The conversation starts with NPK and then it flows on to the other additional benefits. And on the economic front, Amanda, well, the EPA in New South Wales have just funded a project looking at exactly that, looking at some of the economic values that compost brings to agricultural systems. It's a really small project. We're MRA are running it. Anyone else that wants to contribute to it and we can make it a bigger project, more than happy to. But it's a tiny weeny starting point. We've been talking about this for many years and we've finally got a bit of funding in New South Wales to have a look at this particular question. So if anybody else wants to join in that funding, talk to myself or talk to Amanda, and we can probably expand it into other agronomic areas covering more fields.
My question is to all of the members of the panel. Coming from the farming industry, which doesn't always tell its story so well, I'd just like a comment from each of you as to how, given that organics and waste can be such a good news story, how do you feel that the industry can better tell its story about the opportunities, whether it be to the trade public or to farmers about the opportunities?
Right, we're going to give you the elevator pitch too. You've got to be very brief. I think you get a sentence in an elevator pitch, don't you?
Demonstrate the projects that we've heard today and be able to assure themselves and the public that they're not contaminating their own land and the animals' food.
Train agronomists about soil health as well as filling things.
I'll be honest, I don't know what people mean by the industry. To me it seems very diverse. I'm not quite clear on what the industry is.
Well, from your perspective, from your part of the industry, I guess, how can you better tell the good story?
All right.
From our
I think you've lost your chance, sorry.
Sorry, okay.
Just deliver a consistent product year on year, because that's what synthetic fertiliser has done for a long time, is they get what they buy. So with compost we need to deliver that year on year, and they can know what they can expect something, and actually we're delivering that. And I actually agree with his stole response about trained agronomists that's part of their portfolio. If they see a degraded soil or they see the opportunity, they should be specifying recycled organics or compost or 4454 or whatever's needed, maybe with added mineral component, maybe with other amendments and value adds to fix that soil properly the way it should be fixed.
Yeah, I've got nothing great to add. I'm certainly not from whatever this industry is, not from the waste area. Closest thing is probably sustainable ag, but yeah, find your niche and find out what you want to be and where you want to be. Do you want to be apples and apples with synthetics, or doing something better and different and treat a niche? I don't know. It's hard. Behaviour change is hard, particularly in farmers.
Last elevator pitch.
Sorry, I come from.
She wants to know how would you sell?
From soil background, to me, all these compost they come from different, originally made from out of different material. I think we need to look at very carefully where we're going to apply, the specific purpose. Okay, what kind of soils and what kind of crops. The other thing I think that we probably need, from today's discussion, we probably need to develop some kind of these indicators, the quality indicators for the compost. This NPK for the chemical fertilizer. Maybe we can measure some kind of level of carbon, and as what they mentioned that maybe some kind of we can measure biological value. So later on, when we sell this compound, we can put this level of carbon, whatever value there, and that be good indicators of the as good as the NPK for chemical fertilizer.
And the lift door is opening, and we have our very final comment of the day. And then the conference organisers are going to wrap up.
It was just a comment that hasn't come out from the panel, and as farmers being sort of good stewards of the land. That they are trained to look long term, you have to look beyond the coming crop. So the organics are in a perfect spot to fit that. A bag of urea, no matter how much you apply, is available in 2 weeks, probably gone with the next run. So the organics are in a perfect position to disassociate themselves from the bag of urea and look long term for the crop after the next run, and the sustainable health of the soil.
All right, I am going to wrap that up, and I'm going to say thank you to all of the panel members and thank you to all of the people who participated. I've got a couple of announcements, I believe. So the first one is that the conference organisers are going to send out an email post-event. They want to know whether you want to continue this.
Yes, we have closing by Professor Sushila Chan. Dean of, I just. You finished? Oh, sorry. No, you go on.
No, it was your conference.
No, sorry. What did I say? Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Because I just run, I get a taxi for Andrew, just run here, I don't know what's happening.
I will say one thing. I think this has been a really, really great conference, and I think we should congratulate.
Can I really say one thing? Actually, this conference they're run by Marian. Okay, without Marian, I think that there's no conference.
Absolutely.
Okay, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Oh, and I reckon I'm done. Thank you very much.
And then can I invite the Griffith University, Griffith Science Dean and Professor Shishira Chan to come up?